Hello, my name is Rebecka Anderson, and I'm the Educational Technology Manager at the Napa County Office of Education. And welcome to today's session on what the heck is Chromecast and why should I care? This session is being recorded, and also I will be sending out to you following this session a link to a resource page that will have a ton of resources and links to tutorials about using Chromecast, so don't feel like you need to take fast and furious notes today. In the lower left corner of your screen, you'll find that there is a chat box where you can enter in your comments and your questions. Because of our time limitations today, I will be addressing those comments and questions at the end of the session. In the past, during this webinar series, I've introduced different web-based services and apps, and I've shared with you some different ways that those apps and services like Instagram can be used to support, enhance some more traditional types of assignments. Today we're in a different situation because we're focusing on Chromecast, which is a piece of hardware that allows different types of apps and services to work with it. So that said, I want to share with you how using Chromecast as a teacher might open some new doors for you and your students. I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just trying to provide you with enough information so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you and your students. The purpose of today is to give you an overview of what Chromecast is and how it works, and how you might actually use Chromecast in your classroom. So this isn't a step-by-step training on how to get things set up. This is an overview just intended to get you started on your way, or not. You might decide at the end of this session that this isn't going to be a tool that you want to pursue. Okay, so let's get started with what Chromecast does. Chromecast allows you to stream content from your device or your computer to a TV or a projector wirelessly. And the streaming of that content from devices and your laptop, that all looks and happens differently depending upon your tool of choice, and that's something I'll be talking about more as we go. But for now, I want to stay focused on what Chromecast is. Your Chromecast is a HDMI stick. It is about the size of a USB flash drive, but it is not a USB device. Your TV and your projector has to have a special HDMI slot on it. And the way this works is you take the Chromecast and you insert it into your TV or your LCD projector's HDMI slot. And HDMI connections, they deliver video and audio simultaneously through a single connection. And with the Chromecast, this all happens wirelessly. If you plan on using Chromecast with a projector, keep in mind that older projectors don't have HDMI slots. You're going to want to check that out. Also, wireless is a little bit of a misnomer. Your Chromecast does require power, so you'll need to plan for that. So for example, if you've got a ceiling mounted projector, you're going to want to check out that situation. The Chromecast also comes with a short extension. It's like 3 or 4 inches long, and that is there to help you in case your Chromecast is too wide for fitting into slots with other cords you may have already plugged in. So it'll help get your Chromecast into tight fitting spaces, and it's also supposed to help improve the Wi-Fi connection. Once you have your Chromecast plugged in to your TV or your projector, then the question is, well, how do you get the content off of your computer and up onto the screen? So in order for this to work, you have to have Wi-Fi available. The Chromecast itself and the device or the computer, they have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. So in this example on the screen, we can see that the Chromecast is connected to the Wi-Fi network store, and so is that device down at the bottom of the screen that's also connected to the Wi-Fi network store. Getting this set up is actually pretty easy. When you receive your Chromecast, there are step-by-step instructions, but if you find that challenging, I'm going to have some supplemental materials available on that resource page I was telling you about. When Chromecast first came out, the appeal and its main selling point was like great, now there's a way to get your content off of your Android devices up onto the large screen. In the past, really only Apple had that capacity using Apple TV. But now Android users and iPad, iPhone, iPod users can get their content off of their devices, and then you can get that up onto the big screen using only a Chromecast. So there was, when this initially came out, thought that this would be the new silver bullet for presenting. And Chromecast has received a lot of positive attention because it's very portable, it's light, it's inexpensive, it's wireless, and also since its initial release, you can now stream content from your computer. So it's working across multiple platforms, devices, and computers. So that's really nice. I want to first start out by telling you about how to stream content from your computer. You probably already share content from your computer to the large screen, and like whether it's going to a TV, LCD projector, or maybe you're projecting into a smart board, and you might be wondering, like, why would I even bother changing things up? I'm projecting just fine. That's fine. There is nothing wrong with what you're doing. I'm just sharing with you another option, another way of doing things. There are definitely some benefits and drawbacks to using the Chromecast. So let's get into some of those logistics. The first thing, though, in order for any of this to work, your computer has to have the Chrome browser installed. Probably most of you already have that, but you'll need to add something called the Google Cast extension. And the resource page that I'll be sending you, that'll have the details on how to add all of this and get you set up with that. So don't worry about those details just yet. Just know that once you have those installed, when you see the Chromecast button appear up on the right side of your browser, that's the little box that you're going to click to activate sharing your content. So on the screen here, highlighted in yellow, there's that little tiny Chromecast button, and when you click that, that starts everything in motion. So when you click that button, and I've got that highlighted in yellow on the screen too, your computer is going to look and see if there are any Chromecasts available, and they're going to show up in a list. So here I've cleverly named my Chromecast NSA Casting Station, and you can see that showing up in my list here. To start casting my content, all I have to do is click the name of the Chromecast, and it's that easy. It's a 2-click process. Traditionally, when we are projecting, our whole computer screen can be seen. So here you can see all of my browser tabs, my dock, part of my desktop. This is that part of that traditional mirroring of my computer. This is convenient, but there are also some drawbacks. For example, I've got a lot of windows open. I've got several tabs. My desktop oftentimes gets cluttered up. I've got stuff that I probably would rather not have people see. I'm constantly switching between tabs and windows, and every time I do that, everyone can see what I'm doing unless I take the time to mute the projector, but that's kind of a pain. I also tend to have different notifications popping up, whether they're Skype calls, calendar reminders. I try and remember to disable those, but that doesn't always happen. With Chromecast, I don't have to worry about any of that extraneous stuff popping up, because I'm only sharing the content within the tab I selected. So if I go back to our other screen, notice right above where it says NSA Casting Station, it says Cast This Tab. Let's skip ahead. So now I can have a bazillion things open on my computer, and my tab that I have open here is Evernote. The only thing that my audience is going to see is the content that's in the tab. So even if I open another application on top of this, I'm only going to see what's in the tab. So here is an example of what that would look like. So the audience doesn't see my bookmarks bar. They don't see my other tabs. Only the content that I chose to share within that single tab. The advantage here is that I can be working in other tabs without worrying about muting the screen. Only the tab you selected to cast is displayed. For example, when I'm doing my trainings, I'm constantly copying and pasting content from other apps or pages and then pasting that into the tool that I'm using just so that I can be quicker and efficient in the work I'm doing. But that's also a little bit of a distraction. So if I start using Chromecast, I can get rid of that. I suspect that for some of you, though, that this might not seem so appealing, and it might even seem limiting. But the real power with Chromecast is that if you have your students' computers set up to work for Chromecast, they can easily share their screen from their seats. So no need to deal with them moving about the room. You don't have to get a URL from them so they can present from your computer. No need to think about having the right cords available or whether or not you've got the right adapters. Your students can be at their desks and they can instantly start casting content from their own computers, going through that same two-click process that you did. This works for PCs, it works on Macs, works on Chromebooks, and I'll be talking about devices in a moment. But it's nice because it's a great cross-platform tool. And this works for any content that can be accessed within the tab. So a standard website, if you've got videos, music, a website with games, as long as it's viewable within the tab, it will be shared with sound out to your Chromecast and the big screen. I know you all have kids working in different presentation platforms like Haiku Deck, Google Presentation, and video editing tools, WeVideo, EduCreations. With Chromecast, your students can pull any of these presentations and video projects up, and they can present to the class with a couple of clicks. It's because any of that content that's accessible within the browser tab can be displayed. So for me, I really like this quick and easy approach to getting the students to share their screens. I really find that appealing. And I'm actually planning on adding the Google Cast extension to the NCOE lab computers so that when I'm doing my trainings, I can have my participants start sharing what's going on with their screens. Chromecast works great with Google Apps. In particular, it's fixed a problem with Google Slides. Generally speaking, I really, really like Google Slides, but one of my least favorite attributes of it is that when you go into presentation mode and you turn on speaker notes, the speaker notes are viewable to everyone, which is sort of less than effective if you've got a student trying to deliver a presentation. So ideally, if they're presenting, only the audience would see the slides and only the student would see their presentation notes. With Chromecast, only the slide is displayed and the notes are only viewable by the presenter. So that's nice. So if you want your students to be able to quickly share content from their computers, and you want to have your students do more presenting with Google Slides, you might find that Chromecast is a great option for you. You may have heard from others, or perhaps you discovered through your own explorations that you can, in fact, mirror your entire screen. You can do this, but it's not exactly a seamless experience. Turning on the feature, it starts out the same way. You click that same gray casting button, and below that you have to look for Google's famous hidden triangles to reveal the submenu. So I've got that highlighted in yellow in that top left screenshot. Once you click that, you'll see you have your different options available on that submenu, Cast This tab, and we also have Cast Entire Screen. Notice that it says it's experimental. So this is still being fine-tuned, and it's technically not even into beta mode. But it actually works pretty okay, but there are a couple of flaws. For one, there's currently a noticeable delay, and there is also no audio when you're sharing to your desktop. So knowing that mirroring on your computer with Chromecast has some glitches, and knowing that all of our content is not available through a website. For example, you've probably got videos, photos, music, and other content you'd probably like to be able to share that's all locally stored on your computer. We have a little bit of a gap in how we can present our content, since we know that we can't get audio streamed from our desktop if we're mirroring. So I want to share with you a little trick of how to share some of our local files using Chromecast tab. So earlier I mentioned that any content within the tab can be shared. So with this in mind, know that there is a way that you can load your local content from your computer into your browser's tab. So using your browser, you can access local content by going to File and Open File. So if I have a video file on my computer, all I have to do is use this process to navigate to the video file that I want. And then you can also choose, if you want, to just drag and drop your files into the browser tab. I can view images, videos, I can listen to audio files this way, and PDFs. If you have a Microsoft Word or PowerPoint file, you're going to want to convert that into a PDF first. Also, you can only open or view one item in a tab at a time. Because your audience can't see what is happening outside of the tab, you can load other tabs on the fly. Conversely, you could preload multiple tabs on your computer, and you can just turn casting on and off as you move between tabs. Okay, so let's start talking about devices. Devices being phones, tablets, iPads, iPods, whatever it is, they all require the Chromecast app that has to be installed on the device. And once you have that installed, then there are two ways that you can get the content off of your device. You can stream the content from a Chromecast-enabled app or by mirroring your device. So first we're going to talk about mirroring, since we were just talking about that from our computers. To mirror your content, you've got your Chromecast app open, and you're going to click the Cast Your Screen button. And keep in mind, this is also in beta, so you may encounter some bugs, but after you choose to cast your screen, everything that's on your device screen is going to be now viewable on the big screen. So your device stats, your icons, navigation, all your sound is shared as well. If you have a mobile device yourself, or if you have a class in which you also have mobile devices that your students are using, Chromecast may be a very good tool for you to have available, because it addresses the needs of dealing with a mixed device computer environment. But just like with the laptops, there are some limitations. So our main issue with mirroring devices is that not all devices can be mirrored. So on this screen, you can see we have a very short list of devices in which mirroring actually works compared to the actual number of devices that exist. While we do have these hardware limitations, and there's also the issue of having the right version of Android. Also, mirroring does not work on the iOS devices, so iPods, iPads, iPhones, and no word yet on whether or not that's going to happen. I'm going to give you a link to Google's page, which has the list of devices supported, so you can always go back and check and see if you have a device that is not on the list or has been recently added to the list. The good news is that while not all devices can mirror, most can stream content from a specific app. Google has also created a page that shares Google Cast Ready apps so that you can see which apps are going to work. I'll also be sharing this page with you so you can check out that list as time goes by. Once you have your Google Cast app open, you're looking for that same button that you used on your browser. You touch it once, and then your content will appear up on the screen, including the audio. And it's like sharing the content through the tab on your computer. Only your content is shown. All of the extraneous information is hidden. Unfortunately, Google Cast Ready apps are heavy on the entertainment video side, so my guess is that until mirroring is more available across the devices, you might feel limited in streaming from different apps. That said, though, I can definitely see the practical uses of like an app like YouTube. Whether it's you showing videos or your student sharing videos, YouTube works on Android and iOS, so you want to make sure you have the most recent version of that. Another app that you might want to check out that also works in Android and iOS, it's called Photocast, and this will let you display local images and videos that are on your camera roll. So that's another good option for you. One word of caution using the Chromecast is that a passcode is not required to connect to your Chromecast. So you're going to want to set up some guidelines on how you can have your students connect. Otherwise, you might have them clicking in and overriding on each other's screens. Also, in the event you have a teacher in a nearby class that's also using Chromecast, you're going to want to make sure that you've named your Chromecast uniquely so that they're easily identifiable, so that you don't have accidental connections. I wouldn't say this is a reason not to use it, just a reason to set some guidelines and just be a little cautious about that. So the Chromecast, to me, it's not the silver bullet that maybe we hoped it might be, but for $35, you might find it to be worth a try and potentially useful. As I mentioned before, I do intend on setting up our NCOE lab laptops so that I can have my participants share their screens. I really like that idea. It makes sense in the context of the type of work that I do. So you'll want to assess that for your own situations. I personally love the idea of casting per browser tab, and I'm also disappointed by the lack of non-entertainment apps available for the device. So we are at the end of our time today. Thank you very much for participating. On screen we have a link to our evaluation. If you would take a few moments to complete that, I would appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the comments box, and I'll remain on the line and answer your questions. And feel free to also send me an email to the address listed on the screen. Thank you very much for your time today.